Cool. We'll get it rolling here this morning. Good morning. Good morning. I think we would all agree that the name of the game is contacts equal contracts. And today we're going to talk about how to keep the ball rolling once you got it in momentum and continue to get leads. And we wanted it to be kind of a open collaboration to, give our ideas and everybody's preference on the best way they use and implement to get leads. Uncle Tim, do you want to, kick it off for us here and talk a little bit about how to get leads?
Yeah. Well, the biggest lead source that Poppy and I had during the day was from our past client and Center of Influence database. So 66% of our business came from that way, and that's certainly um, a way to get business and get leads, and it certainly ties into more of the Brian Buffini system, I think, of getting leads, working your database. So for those that don't have a database, it's the easiest way to get leads. Obviously, you can purchase leads or you can automate leads. There's other ways and other sources, and there's enough people on this call that we can talk about some of those programs. But if we can, let's start out with Morgan Tressler. If you can unmute yourself. I know you just came back from a Brian Buffini seminar, and Brian Buffini has forever focused on working your database. Tell me, how do you work your database? And is that your largest source of leads also, is using that system tied to the Brian Buffini system?
Yeah, so I mean, that's all. I don't do anything else anymore. I just do my past clients and I started with everyone I knew and I put them I started with an Excel spreadsheet and then I moved to a database and now that's all I work. 91% of my business last year was repeat or referral business. So I just keep in contact with them. They get a newsletter from me every month. They get in a digital newsletter from me every month and a mailed one. And they get a call from me often, or like I send stuff all the time when I see their kids are graduating or birthdays. And I just stay in contact with them. And then I do pop-bys a couple times a year and I do some client appreciation parties and events and try to reach out. For an example, yesterday I posted that Latricia really stopped by my house yesterday to drop off a gift because my son and I are going on a safari. And a couple of my past clients reached out on there. And one of my clients actually moved overseas. And so like with that, we started talking on there, but then like I went and messaged them and like checked in to see how they've been doing and that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's just more organically follow up than, the whole like I like to have a reason to reach out. So if I see something on Facebook or social media in general, or if I drive past the house that they used to live in or something like that, that's always my excuse to check in. But that's how I get most of my leads then because I keep in contact with them and they'll refer me constantly. And then I also, I used to send, when I settled on that referral, I used to send a gift to the person that referred me. But Brian Buffini always says, thank the action, not the result. So I changed in the last year, and now every single person that refers me, the second they refer me, whether it turns into business or not, right now, like it's my first ones get a box. I mail it from One Good Woman right to them. So One Good Woman sends them a box with a thank you card for me. And then I have like a cheese box too that I do if they've already gotten that. So I've had multiple referrals this year, and then people always post it on social media thanking me and all that. But I send a One Good Woman box the second somebody refers me right now. And I do that to other agents too, like other agents, because I do get probably the reason that it was 91% last year is because the other portion that I count separately was referrals from other agents. So when I go to these Brian Buffini events or any events, I take some pop-bys, I meet people there, I connect with them, I follow up with them after, and then they refer me or they refer me to someone else in their office is looking for an agent here in Central PA. And so I'll work with them. And I also send the agent that recommended me to them a thank you as well.
Good. I mean, the system's obviously working for you. How many listings did you have sell last week?
5 in 24 hours. Yeah.
5 in 24 hours.
I'm
That's
up to
fantastic.
20 listings from May 1st to June 30th this year.
Good. Congratulations. Obviously, that system works really well for you. Do you use the item of value
Yeah.
that Brian Buffini sends out monthly?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And that's all automated as long as you're using a system like Brian Buffini and you have your top 100 people or whatever into that referral system. What's it called? Referral Maker or?
Yeah, referral maker. And I think I mean I love referral maker. I think it's super easy. I've looked at a lot of them. I tried top producer prior to referral maker. And it just worked for me. So yeah, like and if there's anybody looking for stuff, I'm always happy to chat or introduce you to some things too. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline with AI and how to incorporate that into your business. And I did just come back from Peak that had a lot of amazing information in it. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, I like the idea that you're rewarding the people that are sending you the lead even before it closes. I know one of the things I used to do a lot of business with FedEx, and one of the things that kept going for me for years and years was after I got the lead from whatever the source was, and it was normally one of their friends referring me to the next person that was going to transfer in, I would take them all to Tavern on the Hill after closing, not just the new buyer and his wife, but the person that referred me and their wife, and we'd all go to dinner together. And that worked well for me as far as showing my appreciation and spending time with them and becoming friends with them. So, it's all good things to do to work your database, and 91% is phenomenal. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I actually will say, so like, I mean, I think that sounds great, Tim, to take people to Tavern on the Hill, but obviously that's not in the budget for everyone. And honestly, up until this year, so I said that I didn't really I did reward the clients or anybody that sent something. So, somebody's out golfing and they say like, oh, we're
Mhm.
talking about selling our house. You should call Morgan. And that person calls me and they say like, oh, Tim referred me to you and said that I should call you. I used to just send a $5 gift card for a coffee in a card. And then when the person would close, I would send like a $50 gift card to dinner or like some basket I would drop off or something I would drop off their house, depending on who it was. And I've reversed that now. So, and now I just immediately send like, it's like a $50 or $60 gift. So it's nothing like I'm not spending, $300 on a dinner or anything that way. It's truly like just an easy way. But I've had two like in the last 6 months that I will never work with. Actually, one buyer that she's still looking for a house and she's not working with me, but I still thanked the person that sent it to me. And the crazy thing is the girl that sent it to me, I've never even met. So I've never met the girl that referred this person to me. And I sent her a thank you and she called me and was like, that was so nice of you. And I said, yeah, like, I hope we get to meet in person sometime soon. Like she was a Sherry Anderson client. I took over Sherry's database. So Sherry had the same referral maker as I did, but Sherry did not track like I did. She just put people in when they closed and kept track that way. So I took her entire database and merged it into mine and put it in as a separate, like a Sherry Anderson category. And Sherry sent letters to everyone letting them know that I was taking over her business. I did follow up with that. I sent, she sends the calendars to her clients. I haven't done that in 15 years. So I did the calendars to all her clients and said, like, we heard you wanted these. This is what Sherry did. So here I am. And it was truly like a girl that said, like, if I trusted Sherry, so if Sherry trusts Morgan, I would use her. And so I literally sent a gift to a girl that I have her address in the database that I've never met face to face. And she referred me.
Sounds good. Keith, you use if you could unmute yourself, Keith LaPrairie, you use a completely different type of system than most agents, and it's more automated. Would you be willing to share with how you get leads from your websites and how it's all automated?
Sure. So I have the website hooked up to all my lead sources. So if something comes in from Zillow, it automatically goes to my website. I don't contact them through Zillow. I start contacting them text message and emails and set up a search for them and then wait for them to respond. Um, because if I try and reach out to everybody, I get overwhelmed. So I wait for them to respond and then it's aggressive follow up and setting a meeting within the next week to sit down and talk. And if they don't want to sit down and talk, then they can keep looking at listings until they're ready. But we also have a mailing system that's all, well, mostly automated. We send out, I don't know, 35 to 40 cards every month. We send out, we do real estate reviews at the anniversary of their purchase. That like gives them an update on what's happened in the house in the market in the last year. All of it's really just to get in front of people. I hate talking on the phone. I hate text messaging. I want to get face to face, find out exactly what they want and need, and get them in a house quickly.
Okay, good. And your automated system, if you could explain a little bit more about how that works, doesn't it, until they get to be a warm lead, then it kind of comes back to you or something like that? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I don't reach out to anybody until they've either called, text message, or emailed me back. So it's, once they get transferred into the website, that's the automation. Um,
Okay.
if it's a seller or an expired or a FISBO, I mean, I have different. It's I don't want to get too complex because I can start naming like the programs that I use and how it happens and like everything that gets sent and um, but I mean it's taken me
You
a long time
you
to
have
set up.
thousands, yeah, you have thousands of people in that system too, right?
Yes, way too many. And it's funny, sometimes I get calls from people that, were in there 2 years ago and we never got further. I've had that a couple of times this year. I had somebody from 5 years ago, um, and they contacted me and we went and saw like 20 houses. They wrote an offer on every time we went out, they wrote an offer. So they weren't serious back then. We saw one or two houses. We talked about it. It wasn't going to work. They weren't ready. Took a couple of years. Their life settled down. They got settled in a rental for 5 years, and then they got a dog and said the landlord said that they needed to find some place for the dog, so they bought a house. I got another client. He went out of the country. Well, it's not a client, a friend, like circle of influence person. He went out of the country for a year, and when I knew he was leaving for a year, we set up a couple of. He was in the military. We set up a couple of care packages and letters to be sent to him. He got back and the next month contacted me and the next month was under contract. So, my goal is keep in touch with as many people as I can. And when they're ready, they're serious. I don't know.
Yeah, good. So as soon as they get hot, you're jumping all over them because they're in the system, they're getting the automation. When they start engaging, they're more serious, and that's when you're closing them
Well, if they're engaging, then it's time to get face to face. And
face to
that's
face.
that's the final step. If they get face to face, then there's a whole other automated system that the buyer interview gets, recorded with their permission, gets put into Chat GPT. It gets, I don't know. It's like I said, I'd be happy to sit down with anybody and confuse the hell out of them for an hour.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about
Or,
that, how that works with the
well,
Chat GPT and
oh,
that
it's amazing
because that's
stuff.
that's a
I
whole
mean,
nother
I
world. Yeah.
I stopped using, I track everything, but I stopped using my note or my tablet for tracking, and I now have a system in Chat GPT where I just type in, I talked to Jim Smith, and this is what we talked about, and I need to follow up with him on this day about this. It updates my CRM. It puts a notification in my calendar. So I've really been trying this year to get more organized like that. And I'll tell you what, it is amazing. AI can do everything as long as you check it for mistakes in grammar and stuff like that. But
Okay, good. Excuse me. Kara, are you on there? I see you're on voice. Are you able to unmute? I
Hey, good
know,
morning.
good morning. I know, like, you do a lot of business, like Morgan, with a lot of past customers and centers of influence. But I think, I'm not positive, that you're also still purchasing some leads from Zillow. Is that correct?
Tim, that's correct. And it's funny that you bring that up because the
Okay.
majority of my business is from, my past clients and sphere of influence for sure. And I was just sitting here with Dewey and Ryan, and I mean, I'm saying, hey, I don't track to know these percentages and things like that. That would be great if I did know that, right? I mean, that would be great, but I don't. But we do purchase leads from Zillow. But what I'm finding, even over the last month and a half, 2 months, is that my phone rings nonstop with Zillow leads. So that so then I try to figure out why is that. And a lot of them they're already working with someone because I hand out the Zillow leads to the group. And and I try to pre-qualify almost, every time somebody that I'm on the phone with them, like, are you pre-qualified? Are you this? Are you that? So I'm paying for leads and I'm reevaluating this if it's even valuable. They're already working with agents. So that's something to let your people know, your clients, guys, like, don't get on Zillow and call an agent because and that's also the importance of having them, understand that they are working with you. Because if not, and you have an agent that is paying for leads through Zillow that doesn't ask those questions and just meets them and they haven't signed something with you, then they're not your client. So that's something that I'm seeing. But another thing I'm saying is if I'm getting all these people that are calling through Zillow, I think that other agents that did subscribe and were paying these huge amounts to Zillow, and I could be wrong in thinking this, but have they dropped that? Have they dropped their budget on Zillow? And that's why my phone's ringing off the hook. But in reality, there are people that are already working with other people. So I'm reevaluating.
Yeah, so Kara, I actually paid for Zillow leads years ago. When Zillow first came out and they were super cheap to buy zip codes, I owned like a lot of Perry County zip codes, and I probably gave that up maybe like 3 years ago. I don't know, time flies, but like 2-ish years ago, I stopped it just because that same thing. The leads were all either working with agents or they were just like they were not qualified leads, and it wasn't worth I didn't enjoy dealing with the people. And because actually when I switched, my database was like Keith's when I switched to Remax, and I transferred thousands of people and I just started it all over from scratch. And then I started not putting Zillow leads into anything anymore, except for like whatever that was connected through, but not into my personal database.
Okay. Yeah. I'm reevaluating
Yeah.
that. I mean, that budget.
My question with Zillow was we in the very beginning when Zillow first came out, we were very successful with it
Mm-hmm.
because they were emailing us the leads, and then it gave us time to get in touch with them because it's not McDonald's. We're not at the drive-through. They don't need their Happy Meal in 30 seconds or less, and they're not just making appointments to go look at the house that minute. So, when they sent us that system where it was emailed, it was nice because then we were able to print it out and follow it up and put it into a notebook and create calling lists to continue to get in touch with them. Well, then they switched at a period of time where they would call you and you had to talk live to this person
Mm-hmm.
and they like connected you. I don't know if it's still like that or not. And I
Yeah.
found myself sitting in a Penn State football game with 100,000 people and the phone's ringing,
Mhm.
or I'm out to dinner and the phone's ringing. And if you're not answering it, all of a sudden the money that you're paying for these leads, you're not getting the lead.
Mhm.
So I got frustrated myself with Zillow, but I do know that we were very successful with it in the beginning. It's just the way the system changed that it wasn't as easy for me anymore. Are they still doing that, Kara, where they're putting you on with a live person at this point in time?
They are. And actually, Tim, now they have an additional thing where whenever the phone rings, it's not even, they already say, like it pops up on my screen, on my phone screen. I want to see this house tomorrow, house 123 any street at 10 a.m. If you are not available to that you don't even speak with someone. If you're not available to do that, hit decline. If you're available to do that, accept, but you know nothing about this person, nothing. And so you randomly are just expected to say, I accept it or I decline it. And then, you know, but you don't never talk to them. You're supposed to meet this person tomorrow at 10 a.m. at 123 any street. And it, that's kind of rough.
Yeah, I don't understand how Zillow thinks that that way system has become better than giving us a chance to find out if they are working with somebody. Do they have a buyer agency? Do they understand the process? Are they looking at a home that they can afford? You
Right.
know,
Right.
that's
And
kind of scary because you don't know who you're going to go meet.
you know nothing about it really. And the thing about, I mean, they do end up after you say yes, then they give you a name and they give you an email, sometimes a phone number. But oftentimes that person then will not show up. Okay. Or that person later on in the day will call or not call, but you'll get a message through Zillow that they've canceled. And typically, I mean, if that's the case, it's because they have an agent. So you've wasted your time, just like you said, you're at this, you know, you're out to dinner, you're at this Penn State thing, you know. So all the leads for our group come through me, and then I try to pre-qualify them just to save the agents this hassle, you know, because I don't want them wasting their time. I also don't want them in a situation that's not safe for them, you know. So I could be maybe talking to somebody or communicating back and forth with them via text or whatever for 20 minutes or so, and then they end up not showing up anyway.
Okay. Good. Jim Penny, if you could unmute yourself for a second. Um, we have been sending out the for sale by owners and expireds as a lead source for years. I know you're one of the people that do work those leads. Tell us a little bit about how your system works with when you get those leads from us, and I don't know if you print them out and put them in a book and call and mark down like Papa used to do, that you dialed them at 9 a.m. and they didn't answer, you dialed them at 1 p.m. and they didn't answer, or you talked to them briefly and went through some of the questions. Tell us how your system works with working the for sale by owners and expired lead source.
Sure, sure. I look for the email every day, Tim, and it's not anything complicated. I just print them out. I have a stack of papers on my desk. I try to keep them in order from the ones that came in most recently to the older ones, and I try to get back to the recent leads as quick as I can. I use Gene's tick sheet, track everything on paper, and I developed a spreadsheet where I put my numbers in there so I can kind of see how effective I am over time and if I'm generating or keeping up with the number of calls that I should be. And since I've been here, that's where the majority of my business has come from. I'm starting to get a few people that coming to me that I know, but I'm also getting repeat business from people that I've generated that way.
Okay, good. Colin,
Yeah.
how about you? What type of lead source are you using and how are you finding leads or getting leads these days?
A good way that I've been trying to keep in contact with past clients is through that Bright system. After a sale, I just put almost like a CMA, automatic email. So when a house comes up for sale in their neighborhood, it emails to me, and then I can text them and say, hey, this house came up in your neighborhood. And then I just remind them to send me referrals and see if anybody wants to be their neighbor. It's been a good way to keep in contact with people. So I kind of use the Bright system for that.
All right.
Yeah.
So now we've used multiple different systems. We got the Brian Buffini system, the automated system that Keith LaPrairie was using, Kara is using Zillow, Jim Penny leading using the for sale by owners and expires that we send out every day, and you're using the Bright automated system to help stay in touch with people to create more business for yourself. Bob Hubler, I know you're more high tech than a lot of us. Also, what systems are you using to create leads and generate leads? I'm not sure if you're using any referral sources that send you leads or that type of thing, but if you could tell us how any of those systems work for you, that would be helpful.
We use Follow Up Boss. It's similar to like a Bold Trail, kind of like what Keith is using. It's just put people up on a system because we'll put people's like birthdays in the system, and it automatically sends out an email, happy birthday. We have it tied in with AM cards, so like when we do Christmas cards, we can just go in the system and tag the people, and it'll send them out a Christmas card. You can even send out birthday cards through there if you want. Um, you can, I think we were tracking for a while because with the interest rates that were going up, we were tagging what the people's interest rates were that when they purchased their home. So then when the rates go back down, you could say, hey, you were at 7%, you could now get 5.5% interest rate. It might be, worth a look to sit there and do a refinance, just something like that, tracking what interest rate that they had, and they could have like a benefit, if the rates actually do come back down and whatnot. And just the other thing I have out is saying being out and being seen. So because if people know that you're a real estate agent, they forget about you unless you go out and see them or touch, just being out and being seen. Because like with my bank foreclosure stuff, all the time we have people that are I'm in these groups and they're like, well, when's the group going to give me a listing and stuff? It's just like, well, when was the last time that you were out where the people who have the listings are? So it's one of those things about being out and being seen. So it just people laugh. We go out and we do bingo every week at the VFW. Last year, I pulled a handful of deals out of the VFW because I was out and I was seen. And this year, I think we've gotten 2 deals out of the VFW so far. So, it's just being involved, just different groups and organizations. So then people think of you. But the biggest thing is being out and being seen, and we just use our follow-up boss system, and you just put the tags in right. I'm not as automated as Keith is, and I would like to be more. But it's just time and effort. It's just to set all the stuff up. So that's pretty much what I have.
Yep. Bob, that's awesome. I'm glad you brought that up because it's a whole different perspective than what we've talked about so far this morning was being out and being seen. And you're absolutely right about that. When you put yourself out there and you are face to face with the people and they know you're in the business, and even if you're just at a social event, being out and being seen brings you a lot of business. I know, not back to Morgan again. Morgan has done that for years with being out and being seen and being at the Cumberland Valley football games and sporting events and all those type of things, and everybody knowing that she's in the business, being out there always brings more business and being seen. I like how you said that. Anybody else? Steve Voorhees, want to
Yeah,
elaborate on how
Tim,
you? Yes.
Ken Diltz here.
Yeah.
Before the meeting, Kong and Brooks and I were talking about golf.
Uh-huh.
And this week, next 2 weeks, I'm going to list over $1 million in 3 listings from playing golf. So your dad used to love, I used to tell him, I got this from playing golf, that from playing golf. And I tell my wife a lot that I got that from playing golf. Uh, so, that source, I coached Little League Baseball with my son for 9 years. They're now 40 years old. Well, I've gotten just tons of business over the years from these kids that are now men. So yeah, just doing daily activities and being seen. I agree with Bob. I go to Flinchies a lot. I get a lot of business from there. So, I work with my past clients too, which I'm pretty old, so there's numerous. Uh, Not as organized as I'd like to be, clearly, but yeah, golf has always been a very good source of business for me.
Yeah, I know you've always gotten a lot of business from the golf course, and actually some of the things you've been saying to me recently too, you've been getting business from making the calls. Can you tell us about that, Ken, how that's working
Yeah,
for
I'm
you?
going out. I'm going out Thursday to a listing to hopefully get a listing in Dillsburg that I sold them in 2002. Um, they bought it for 220. It's probably worth 500-600. It's an acre and a half, 2,700 square feet. So yeah, I've just been reaching out to past clients more than I used to, and that pays off. I mean, obviously, it's not brain surgery.
Yep. Good, thank you. Steve Voorhees, what type of systems are you using to get business? I know you do some social media posts where you're engaging with people with being out in nature and taking pictures, and I know that there's a lot of people that follow you and follow what you do. Do you seem to get business that way through, again, being seen through social media and those type of events?
I definitely get some business that way, Tim. I could do a better job of that. I have like my personal Facebook page and be honest with you, if I wasn't in real estate, I probably wouldn't have any of that going on. So I do enjoy doing that, but I do keep in touch with people that I would normally keep in touch with, like people I graduated high school with that I didn't really know that well, but they seem to like me on Facebook. So,
Hmm.
but what I will say is, in my opinion, the best way to get business is through your past clients. That is through some sort of contact management system, like whether it's on a piece of paper or the system that Morgan uses or the system that Keith uses or Top Producer or whatever. But this isn't directly answering your question, but one thing that I do that I found very beneficial that you might want to think about is I'm in a network group and I've tried a couple different ones. I hated them. I would go and people just give you their business card because they're in business and that's it. And then you're done. The one I'm in, I love it. And so if you can find a network group where the people are really kind of like we are at First Advantage, like how we support each other and have these meetings and learn. If you can find a network group like that with other business people, that has been a big boon to my business over the last 10 years.
Good.
And we
Yeah.
meet every week on Zoom. It used to be in person after COVID, we stopped, but we meet every week on Zoom. And once one of those weeks a month, we meet for lunch.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for bringing that up because you're right with joining network groups like that that definitely are more engaging, um, where the people do care and you're sharing ideas and businesses and how different approaches. That's definitely a way to do it. When it's more, I would call it intimate, that type of thing versus some big organization, like you said, where you're just handing out a card. Having those weekly Zoom meetings definitely helps as far as with sharing ideas and that kind of thing. And one of the other things, Steve, that you brought up, and I'm glad that you did on a lead source, because we have some younger agents like Hannah Maverick that's on the call here, and Brenna, who's getting started in this business. And you brought up class reunions, and I found that the more you're involved with your class reunions that typically happen every 5 years, the more access you have to the emails and the phone numbers and the addresses of the people in your class. And especially for some of these younger people, as people get to be 25, 30, 35 years old, those young folks are all going to be buying houses. So getting involved in with class reunions and having access to that information and then starting that, because a lot of young people don't have the databases, the past clients, the centers of influences that people that maybe are 40, 50, 60 years old. So how do you develop that past client database of centers of influence? Get involved in your class reunions. So I think that's a great idea. And thank
And
you for
one
bringing
thing
it.
with that too, just recommendation. I don't know about Hannah, but I know for Brenna, I started my business all like going full time in real estate the year that I got married. And so my database started with my guest list from my wedding. That's how I made an Excel spreadsheet. And those were the people I felt like wanted to hear from me. So I sent a personal card letting them know that I was in real estate with my business cards. And if they knew anybody to please pass it along. And that's how I started building my database.
Good. Good. Thank you, everybody today. Jim Penny, you got one more question?
Well, all the comments just made me think of a couple things I do, Tim. I'm involved with a car club. I'm volunteering over at the country club on the long-term planning committee, and I am involved with my class reunion. So it all sounds like good stuff to me. I just a couple other ideas, that's all.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah.
Brooks, anything else you want to bring up to finish it off? It was great sharing of ideas today on how each person is using a system to create leads and get leads. And thank you to everybody, seriously, for sharing those ideas. I think it was very informative today. Anything you have to say, Brooks, to close it up?
Yeah, I just wrote down a couple things and I feel like Poppy would kill me if I didn't bring a couple of them up. He was huge on tracking his numbers, you know. That's one of those things with whether it's buying Zillow leads or these online leads or just, your database. You got to track your numbers. You got to figure out where these leads are coming from, which ones are converting and which ones are paying off for you. Obviously, if you're getting Zillow leads, you want to know how many of those you're converting and whether it's worth your while to continue to pay for them. The other thing I wrote down, and I know Keith uses this, and not to get too far into the weeds on it, is Bold Trail is the CRM system that Remax has to offer all of us for free. And it's a super robust platform. And honestly, you can get inundated in the details of it, but there's a lot of creative ways on there that you can start generating leads. A lot of cool automated systems that will follow up with those leads for you. For example, you have an automated valuation model, AVM tool that you can put out on social media, all kinds of different posts, and that gives folks a general idea of what their home's worth as those leads inquire about that home automation model. You can trigger things like handwritten postcards. There's companies out there that, do your personalized handwritten font. And as soon as that lead comes in, they'll automatically get mailed a letter that says, hey, these AVM tools give you a broad view of what your home might be worth, but if you want a free CMA, I'd be happy to come meet you at your property, take a tour, and give you a closer idea of what your home could actually sell for. But all this stuff, again, is offered by Remax to you for free in that Bold Trail platform. You have all that right at your fingertips. And the last thing I want to touch on, I wrote this down, and to piggyback off Bob, is don't be a 007 secret agent. I struggle with that myself. Honestly, I'm not the most outgoing person in the world, but when you're at your kids' sporting events or, on a motorcycle ride or anything that you're participating in where there's people out there, simple things like wearing these Remax t-shirts, and starting a conversation about real estate can be really beneficial in getting new leads and adding new people to your database and, growing your business. So those are the things I wrote down and just wanted to bring up.
And thank you for bringing up about the motorcycle ride. This Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, weather permitting, we're going to have our annual ride and drive event to help support the Penn State Hershey Children's Hospital. And if you don't have a motorcycle, it's okay. There are going to be people driving cars if you're available, where you can find somebody else to be available too. It would be greatly appreciated. Brooks, we have what, 5 or 6 stops we're going to stop at?
Yeah, five stops in total, all through Cumberland County, York County, and Perry County.
And it would certainly be nice to, if you're not doing anything, to be able to attend that and show some support and help us raise a little bit of money for the kids with cancer at the Penn State Children's Hospital. So thank you. Thanks again for everybody for sharing your ideas, and we'll hopefully see you on Saturday. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday.